Hello, everybody. This is Jill. Welcome to the Outwitting Wetiko, Knowing the Enemy series number 2. And I'm very glad to be here with you. Thank you for joining us, whether it's live or an archive. Thank you. Your support of this work means a lot to me. This is a part of my work that is totally freaking parts of me out. And I'm being brave and courageous and going at it anyway. So anyway, thank you. So let's start with just taking a couple nice deep breaths here. Okay, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Relaxing our shoulders and just helping us center into the beautiful divine energy that is actually inside of us. And just imagine deep within yourself a source of light that is pure and bright and authentically good. That is the real you. That is your soulfulness. That is your higher self energy streaming from beyond this time-space continuum into you and then out of you into this reality. That's how light is brought into this reality, is from the inside out of beings and of things in this space. Okay, you can open your eyes if you haven't already. Welcome. Okay, so where we're going to get started today with Wetiko. He and I were chatting about it earlier, and that yes, I'm using the pronoun he. It just makes sense. I have to pick a masculine or feminine pronoun, so I'm going to do he. I could do either one. Anyway, what we're going to start out with is just kind of a general overview. But still, cosmic and cool and cutting edge, related to how Wetiko is even here. How did it come about? Please make sure that you've listened to episode number 1. Don't jump in right here to episode 2, because there's a lot of context setting that are important for you to have first. Okay, so Wetiko ended up here, and it basically is because of the quarantine in this reality. So in order for us as God energy, as source creator God, there's one source creator God, and then everything fits within that. As source creator God was curious and said, I wonder what it's like to forget that we're God, we created this reality for serving that purpose, other things too, but also serving that purpose. So it takes a lot of divine engineering to construct and conceive even a reality where you can forget that you're God, and because you are God inherently. So the quarantine that's here in this reality allows for many things that don't happen in other realities, and one of those things that doesn't happen in other realities is unconsciousness, which goes hand in hand, as you can imagine, with forgetting that you're God. So unconsciousness in this reality is just like a fog in the air. It doesn't have a home. It doesn't have a source. It's just like this vaporware that's available in this reality, but it can only exist in a reality where it's allowed to forget that you're God. Okay, so it's not that Wetiko is only available in this reality, but the form of it here is unique and distinct because it emanated in the process of a lot of energy, not knowing it was God. Okay? So that's Wetiko. It can affect anybody at any time. It can affect the most amazing light worker. It can affect the most unconscious person. It's an equal opportunity tease, you just said, and manipulator. And when somebody's guard is down, or they're feeling in any way separate from their true higher self nature, that's like an open opportunity for Wetiko to just slide right in. So Wetiko isn't something that we should be ashamed of when we have it. It's actually much more empowered to, when you notice it, actually embrace it. It is a part of this reality. You can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it entirely. And that's why I have decided, and for me it's been working amazing, to become frenemies with it, because then you know what you have a clearer idea of what's going on. You have a clearer indication of that it is Wetiko, so you don't have to start blaming other people. It's just this faceless, nameless until now kind of thing that can kind of F with you whenever you give it a chance to. So you don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to, find somebody that, a victimizer that tricked you. It just happens here. You don't have to. It's not personal. Okay, so I do want to just cut to the chase here, because I will talk a lot in the series about different ways that Wetiko does work with us and work with others in our lives and work in this reality in general. But I do want to make it very clear that the way to, I want to say prevent, but you can't fully prevent it, but the way to minimize your chances of Wetiko in your life is by claiming your sovereignty. And by fully understanding, as well as you can as you're human, what your higher self energy looks like, acts like, what its vibration is. Because the closer you are to your higher self, components and thoughts and kind of beliefs and feelings and way of operating, the less likely you are to be affected by Wetiko. Okay? It minimizes your chances. And by embracing this concept of Wetiko, that it's just kind of part of life, just like death is a part of life, then we can have a healthier relationship with unconsciousness in our world, in our personal reality, and even in our personal energy field. Okay, so I'll be happy to give numerous examples of where I have identified Wetiko and been able to just go, oh my gosh, and laugh at it, and then the energy changes even just by the recognition of it. But pretending you don't have it doesn't work. Pretending it doesn't exist doesn't work. Pretending it isn't powerful doesn't work. And pretending it's more powerful than it is also doesn't work. Okay? So there's lots of ways, lots of things we've tried as humanity in a dark age that don't work. So I'm most excited about sharing strategies where it does work, okay? Okay, let's relax our shoulders and I'll see where we're going next here with this. Okay. Wow. Wetiko's just saying, nice summary, by the way, in terms of how it even came to be that I'm possible. So just to be clear, Wetiko is not an opposing force to God. Wetiko is not anything in power relative to light and relative to God's source vibration, okay? But it will make you think it is if given the chance. So you have to know its place. You have to know the power of your light. And it's absolutely invaluable to know that the light of God truly is your core foundation, no matter what you're doing or not doing, no matter if you're trying or not trying. It just is. Accepting that cornerstone belief is absolutely fundamental, that you are naturally good, you are naturally inherently divine, and that in this reality, while we are in the quarantine and forgetting that we're God, shit can happen to us, and it's not personal. It's not because you screwed up or somebody else screwed up. It just happens here. So every single instance of shit happening to us, we have an opportunity to reflect and choose responses. And sometimes the response is no response to something that happens to us. We've actually, okay, Wetiko, here you go. Let me see what he wants to say here. It's a huge adjustment for me, by the way, to speak directly from his vibration. So it's a lot slower than what I normally do to get in that vibration of my team. Wetiko isn't a member of my team. He's a flavor of vibration that we all interact with. I am just choosing to do so consciously in this reality. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, because I get confused by that too, by the way. Okay. Okay, we'll just go right there then. Every suicide in this reality involves Wetiko. Every single one. Interestingly enough, I had a client earlier tonight that shared that they had been close to a suicidal occurrence. In other words, they were close to taking their own life within months of right now, so very recently. And as we were in private session, I asked this person, I said, I'm curious here, did it feel like something was taking you over? Did it feel like you were taken over? And the client very quickly said, yes. Yes, it did feel like I was taken over. And which he goes over here smiling. That's a big, that's not a yellow flag, that's a red flag. Whenever you feel like something else is moving your mouth, something else is controlling your thoughts, something else is moving your hands, or sitting on you so you feel like you can't move, that is a hallmark of Wetiko. So how does that happen? That happens by you being out of alignment with your higher self energy in all the different ways that can happen here, right? Because we've created not infinite, but a whole lot of ways that we can forget that we're God. So whenever we're out of alignment with our higher self, whenever we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, you suck, you loser, you're never going to figure this out, you're constantly trying and trying and trying and nothing works. That's not our higher self energy talking within ourselves. That's Wetiko. That's unconsciousness. Wetiko talks shit. It's a trash talker, right? Whenever we're insecure, whenever we say, oh my gosh, I'll never be as good as so-and-so, or I'll never measure up to someone's ideal, I'll never measure up to my own ideal, that's Wetiko. That's not your higher self. Our higher selves don't talk that way. I've also had clients that I've met in private session that say, yeah, I talk to my team all the time. They get really mad at me. Teams don't get mad at you. That's a misidentification of energy. That client may be talking to something, but it's not their team. Our teams don't get mad at us. That's wrong. So that's Wetiko. And think about that. Think about how highly disturbing that is. That somebody that is interdimensionally connected has misconstrued Wetiko that will totally fuck with you, and they think it's their team. How sad is that? That makes me want to just punch Wetiko in the face and say, isn't that a foul? Can't somebody put him in the penalty box for that? That's just so wrong. And yet what he's saying is, but there's personal responsibility of that individual that let me do that. That individual thinks that their team talks to them that way, so it's an open opportunity for me to go in there. They have to take responsibility for themselves. And that, again, is another way that we can, I want to say, dampen Wetiko's influence and power and manipulation of our lives, is by knowing that we are responsible for our thoughts, our beliefs, our truths, our actions, all of our actions. No one else is. We are an open door for Wetiko whenever we have patterns of blaming other people or coming up with excuses for everything. When truly the answer can be, I messed up. I don't know what happened there, but I messed up. Now, in my free podcast earlier today, I had technology glitches. And I still want to blame technology. Like, I really don't know what happened. I don't know why the phone number didn't end up being revealed so that people could call in versus just be on the webcast. I really don't know what happened there. I do feel like Wetiko had something to do with it. But I don't mean that in a blaming kind of way like it sounds, and maybe it is. However, I could have prevented that by maybe being slower in my steps. Of setting up that call and putting it on my website and all those things. Wetiko just said, or asking for help, which is not your strong suit, Jill. And yes, that's so true. It's not my strong suit to ask for help. Anyway, so struck a chord there. Notice when there are ways that you feel taken over. Reflect back on maybe the darkest moments in your life and reflect on whether it felt like you were observing and something else had you by the balls. It doesn't have to be that way. And in that moment, that client that was really close to suicide recently, what they said was that they were able to notice what was going on, and as they put it, call in the light. And I made sure later on in the session that they were calling in the light from the inside of them, not from the outside of them. Wetiko loves it when we think that Source, Creator, God, light energy is outside of us and that we have to go find it. He's like, oh, you're just like a sitting duck there, and I can just, munch on you whenever I want to. Yeah, munch. I don't even know if that's a real word. That's okay. So this opportunity for us to have our awareness up, be willing to look at ourselves honestly, openly, no bullshit, not afraid of what we see, that takes a high degree of courage and a high degree of bravery and authenticity and integrity to be able to look at ourselves from all angles, from all sides, and not be afraid to see something. It's very common that in this sort of high vibe self-evaluation that there are parts of us that we don't like. That doesn't have to be scary. Our higher selves aren't afraid of that part of us. Our higher selves are super excited when we see our flavors of unconsciousness. Because like any sort of addiction, that's the beginning, is recognition, awareness of the issue, the opportunity. And you could say problem, and I don't think that would be inaccurate. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but anyway, I'm sick of it in spirituality where we're like, well, there are no problems. There are no problems. Yeah, I consider suicide a problem. I do. I'm not afraid to say it. I consider drugs a problem. Not for me personally, but I'm just saying in general, in this reality, there's a lot of problems. I don't know why we need to sugarcoat it. I think we're more mature than that, are we not? Very good. Okay. So, being willing to see yourself in all the different layers and flavors, and recognizing when you feel like you have, for whatever reason, felt uncomfortable enough in your field that you didn't like what you felt, where you stepped out and left a vacancy for something else to step in. That's when it starts. And for an audience like this that's so conscious and probably so expanded and high vibe, that's where he gets us, is when we see a part of ourselves that we don't like because we've heard or been told or even just felt, this doesn't feel like my higher self. I don't think my higher self is insecure, but I sure as shit feel really insecure in this moment. So I don't like the way this feels. I would rather be spiritual, quote unquote. So I'm going to step off to the left out of my energy field because I don't want to feel insecure. Well, who is manning the show then? Or womaning the show? Who is at the steering wheel of that energy field that's been assigned to you by your higher self? If you're not there, what is? That's a big opportunity for Wetiko. That's a big opportunity for unconsciousness. Think of Wetiko like a squatter, looking for a place to lay its head at night, looking for some energy to suck up, kind of like a hungry appliance in your house that likes to draw on all the electricity that it can. That's like Wetiko. And that feeding off of energy is off of your divine energy field. And we're letting it. Whenever we feel like, oh, this is getting tough, or this is uncomfortable, I just don't like being in a human bodysuit. When am I done? When do I get out of here? When can I call this show of my life done? Whether that's a rapture program or ET's coming to rescue you or whatever dreamy visions you have in your beautiful mind. If you're ready and willing and already pulling out of your humanness because you don't like it, that is like a green light for Wetiko to step in at a moment's notice, or maybe even just hang out indefinitely until you realize that it's in there. And you're like, holy crap, I don't know how long you've been there, but I see you really clearly now. And it's time to clean house. It's time to see you for what you are. It's time to take responsibility for myself. It's time to monitor and be clearer with my words so that I get to monitor everything that I say. And if I ever lose sight of that and you say something on my behalf that I wouldn't say, and you can't get words back in this reality, but you can take responsibility for unconsciousness that you did or said, even if that person doesn't know, by the way. You could say, you know what, I said something to you earlier today, or even last year. I think we gave an example of that in the episode number 1. How weird would that be to get a phone call from somebody, last year I said something to you that I never meant to say. I realized that I felt hijacked in that moment, or it was my insecurity or my jealousy speaking, and I want to apologize to you. Wow, can you imagine how healing that is to you? That you're brave enough and literally a mature, emotionally responsible human, that you can put your stamp that those did come out of your mouth, so they were your words, but they weren't what you meant to say, and that you'd somehow allowed something to hijack you, and that you have the authority now to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that hurt you. I know it hurt me over these years regretting what I said or what I did, and I am so sorry. This flavor of emotional maturity and adult responsibility is really, really a theme right now. We are just capable of so much more embracing of our true divine energy field when we can make appropriate space in our field for it by recognizing flavors of unconsciousness and allowing more of that divinity to ease into our space and getting rid, in many ways, or transmuting and transforming those, if you will, electrical appliances that are sucking the divine energy out, but not for divine purposes. Okay, we're going to shift gears here. Let's relax our shoulders and take a nice deep breath. I wasn't sure if we were going to do this tonight, and it does feel to me as human Jill like we're bouncing around a little bit, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to accept that. Something was shown to me over 2 weeks ago, and that is that every time we have a negative thought about someone else, it is like a curse. And Wetiko plays with it. He rides it like guiding an arrow. So this could be very humbling for a lot of us, me included, by the way. Let's just have a moment here where we think about someone that we have had ill will towards, and we may have never told anybody about it. Could be jealousy, could be insecurity, could be rage. It could be somebody that you feel competitive with. It doesn't matter. Just I'm sure we can all think of somebody, and even if it's a really slight degree, it doesn't have to be like if it's hard for you to find somebody, just give yourself more time. There's got to be somebody in there, because it's so natural for us to have these flavors of unconsciousness, and in this case, directed towards another human. Okay, so find one person that fits in that category, and just imagine that they're sitting in front of you, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and just feel in your heart. Stay in your body even if you feel embarrassed or even ashamed or just sad or disappointed in yourself that you felt anything negative about this person that may have done absolutely nothing to you. And just with your eyes closed, look at them with your inner vision and force a smile. And you may wish to say these words. I'm so sorry. I let myself fall under the spell of Wetiko. I have felt negative feelings towards you and about you, and you never deserve that. I'm sorry. I forgive myself, and I take responsibility for any sort of negative energy that I allow to be unleashed from this universe towards you with somehow my name and my energy associated with it. That's not why I'm here on the planet, and I don't want to do that anymore. My higher self has nothing but love and honor for you. My higher self has nothing but love and honor for me. And this is home. This is my home vibration, this love, this honor. I don't want to wish harm on you or on anyone. And I know there's room for all of us to be in our most expanded light in this world. And I thank you. And so it is. Okay. Now I'm going to share something here that I don't talk about very often. I can feel it when somebody that I know or somebody that I don't even know, as Jill, is thinking negatively about me. It feels like hail coming from the sky onto me. And it makes me want to kind of like duck and go for cover. I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually somebody, at least one person on this call, that maybe has had negative feelings in one way, shape, or form towards me at one time or another. And I want you to know that I feel that. And I want you to know that if you are also on the receiving end, I want to honor your ability to feel that. It sucks. Especially when you know it's based on some weird Wetiko, unconscious, manipulated misunderstanding, and that you truly are innocent and don't deserve to have those, it's almost like a curse kind of thrown at you. It may not be a consciously initiated curse, but wishing ill upon somebody is just as bad. Disliking somebody and allowing yourself to feel that in an outward, get them kind of way. I wish they'd be taken down, or I wish they'd fail, or I hope they never make it, or I'm mad at them today. No, I realize there's a paradox, and I'll address that in a minute, but I just want to honor any of us that have felt that on the receiving end. And that's where it's really interesting, kind of full circle, isn't it? Because in that experience, we were taking responsibility for us directing it outward. And now what we just addressed is the feeling of it inward, right? Psychic attacks are real. Possession, that kind of thing is real. It all falls within the realm of Wetiko and unconsciousness in this reality. Okay? So somebody's got to take responsibility for it, and Wetiko isn't. So I'm not saying that we need to deny our anger. I'm not saying that when we get frustrated with somebody that you should pretend that you're not frustrated or try to stuff it. But I am asking you to recognize that it's yours and to keep it in your field and to not let that hailstorm leave your vicinity, leave your property, because that's not fair, and we're better than that. We didn't come here for that. We didn't come here to throw stones. We came here to be this amazing expression of source creator energy in all the flavors of layers of consciousness and unconsciousness. And the restoration of our divine consciousness is an absolute joy and privilege and blessing that we're even able to have a conversation like this about Wetiko, right? Okay. So what do we do instead when we're pissed at somebody? Well, we keep it in our field, literally. So if you imagine that you're on your own football field or in your own ball of energy, just let the curse words fly, do your little rant, whatever, but keep it in-house. It's kind of like you don't pick up the phone. It's best not to talk about it with somebody else. It's best to just keep it literally, energetically within your own field by talking to yourself, writing it down on a note or something within yourself. But don't let it leave the house, right? Let it stay in there instead, and then allow yourself to notice how foreign this is to your higher self energy. That your higher self energy isn't going on this little rant. It's just witnessing you going, oh my gosh, look at me, look at my human, I'm so mad. About nothing, but I think it's about something. Let's see here. So then, for me anyway, when I realize this is happening, most of the time anyway, I can smile and go, wow, this is so funny that there's a part of me that's so angry at that person or so frustrated or so annoyed, or there's just this recurring kind of like button pushing experience going on with that person. But I recognize that really it's me. And that I have choices, another way to see them. I can still be pissed off at what they're doing. I can still disagree with somebody, but there's no need to send out the arrows. It's just not necessary. There's another way to handle it that's more mature, more responsible, and feels more accountable that you're of your energy field and of your choices and of your soulfulness. Okay? All right, let me know if you have questions about that. Now, the contradiction can come in because I've become so open about letting yourself get angry, letting yourself get pissed off, and sometimes a pretend nemesis can actually fuel the light of God within you. So that can actually be used for good, and Wetiko is just saying that's actually in some ways using me for a good purpose in that way. Yeah, okay, and now Jesus, my favorite example of Jesus is that when he went into the temple that day and he realized that some of the temple leaders were selling things and trying to hawk like godliness through stuff at the temple, like a market, and the temple was not supposed to be the market. And Jesus was so pissed, so he just went into a rage and he started flipping up tables and things. He was mad at the situation. He was wanting to hold others accountable, but he's saying it was openly, it wasn't like behind closed doors. And I was more owning that I wanted to stir up this energy so that others had the opportunity to see that it wasn't in alignment with the purpose of the temple. Now I'm laughing at Jesus. I'm like, well, I'm confused. And he's saying it's just different when you openly act upon it versus like behind the scenes. There's something different because then the other person actually has a fair chance to respond, Jill. It's different when the other person doesn't even know about it and you're just kind of, and you don't have a relationship maybe with them and you're just kind of spewing. That's negative. Okay. Yeah, I am slightly confused, I have to admit. And Wetiko's just smiling and saying, I love it. I love it when you're confused. Oh, that's not nice. Okay, help me out here. Are you acting on it openly and honestly, or are you trying to keep it in the shadows because you're embarrassed by it? That's the difference. If you're too embarrassed to own it publicly, then why are you doing it privately? It's because you know you don't want to own it. Either you don't have the guts to say you're pissed out loud, but you just want to go around in the shadows. Curses operate in the shadowy layers of this reality, and they hit their target more often than we'd probably like to admit. Curses ride on the vibration of the shadowy energy, the unconscious layers in this reality. So the least you can do if you're mad at somebody, if you are going to let it outside of your field, is to send a message or something and say, hey, I was pissed when you did this the other day. And I would add to that message, if you ever send something like that, and I own it, that this may be based on a total misunderstanding of what you were doing. I totally own it, and you don't owe me a response. I just, for some reason, wanted to tell you that I was upset or disappointed at you in that regard. That's a brave move, by the way, and I would sleep on it 24 hours before you send it. Okay, so this reminds me of another kind of policy I have with Wetiko. Whenever I'm feeling in that lower vibrational state, I tend to kind of stay low. And that's so funny. I was following that policy of staying in my own field, and I didn't even realize it. You will not see me on Facebook going, oh my God, I feel like shit today, on a public post. I may do it in a private group when I'm saying, hey, any sparkles anybody's got to send my way are appreciated. But to rant on public, in a public way, is just spewing unconsciousness like a volcano, and I don't recommend doing that. So when I feel sad, unhappy, not my best, not in my light, that to me is a sign to lay low, stay in like a turtle shell, just go in the shell, hang in there, because number one, it'll subside. Ask for help if you need it, right? But don't make it everybody else's business, because sometimes that's just a Wetiko way of getting attention, and it actually distracts a lot of people around you when you do that. When 12 hours later, it's probably not even a legit thing. You could probably look back at that post and be like, oh my God, it's like I don't even recognize me in that post. Do you know why? Because it wasn't real. It was some flavor of a consciousness you were hanging out in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll have a lot less to apologize for, and you'll distract a lot fewer people if you don't act from that vibration. Just like freeze, like a freeze game, like a red light, green light. Just freeze when you feel that way, because it's not authentic to your higher self. So can you play? Some people live in that range of unconsciousness. They're constantly in a state of unconsciousness and maybe even regret. I guess regret takes some consciousness, but just constant, like sleepwalking through life. That's like a zombie apocalypse kind of way of living, which sadly most of humanity is in, right? So there's just a big haze, foggy brain kind of syndrome going on where no one really knows what they're doing. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us face this where we're trying to hold someone accountable for something, and they're like, what are you talking about? What are you mad about? I don't even know that I did that. Are you sure I said that? And you're like, yeah, I have the text or whatever. And there's no accountability because they're not even aware of what they're doing. You can't. And Wetiko's just saying you can never hold me responsible for anything. He's like, that's how I work. So Wetiko's saying, if I've animated somebody because they let me, you just try and pin me down. Oh my God. He's like, it's actually for him funny to watch. So this is standard course, right? For anybody that has an addiction, anybody that has like repressed behavior that they cannot own or will not own, affairs, like marital affairs are very much based on this. You try to get a cheater, cheating spouse or cheating partner to own up to it. I mean, they're under the spell of Wetiko so much that, you'll never have the conscious conversation you want to have with that person. It's the same thing with a cheater, a liar. There's just a whole, again, this Wetiko wears so many clothes and comes in so many flavors and layers in this reality. So know what you're dealing with so that you don't waste your time. It's sad to me when I have a client that, thinks that their spouse is cheating or something, and they're hanging on to try to catch them. And I'm just like, why? Why would that be? Why would that make you happy? And you think it would satisfy you and feel good, but it won't. And you're wasting time in the situation when you already know what's going on. So the thrill you think you're going to feel by they're just going to wiggle out of it. That's what Wetiko does, and it's Wetiko that's in that cheating, lying kind of game. So you're shadow boxing. Nothing. So save yourself the time and the effort and just don't engage. The best thing you want to do is not get in an engagement with Wetiko. And Jesus is just stepping in and saying that was a very powerful exercise that we did back there with that supposed foe that we've manufactured for ourselves. And he's just wanting to add to it that it's not real. The human version of any enemy that you think you have is not real. They may represent something, but you're giving that person probably far more credit than they deserve. Just deal with it on the inside, is what Jesus is saying. And be pissed as long as you want, but stop trying to assign a name to it. Just be mad. Be mad in a general way about this reality. Stop trying to pick somebody that fits that bill. Just be pissed. This probably falls more in the and now he's talking about me. He's saying about the arrows that come at Jill is that, well, I want a divine connection like she has. And then it can come to frustration that, well, damn it, I want it. So maybe it ends up in anger towards Jill, or frustration that she won't teach people to do what she does. She's not convinced anyone can do what she does. She loves the idea that they can. She hopes that everyone can, but she hasn't been convinced of that. Everybody has their own value, their own worth. So rather than trying to chase a gift, she would much rather show you your sovereignty. And if you decide to embrace any and all of the gifts that you have as a divine being in this reality, great. But it was never about the gifts. That's why she doesn't focus on them too much. Okay? So stop blaming her for what you want. Stop blaming anyone for what you really want, and just own the fact that you, for some reason, feel triggered by somebody that has what you want. Own it. That's your shit. It's no one else's. And by the way, I'm just stepping in here. He's talking about me too, because I do that. I do that with people that get invited to speak at all these awesome events, and I'm like, well, I want to be invited to speak at that event. And I can constantly look at the same type of people that get, interviews with Lilu Mace and all these other things. And I'm like, there's definitely a part of me as Jill that's like, well, why wasn't I invited? Why don't I get to go? But that's the way it is for now. Hopefully not for long. But that's a part of Wetiko that I'm embracing. So anyway. All right, let's shift gears here to your questions, if you have any. So if you're on the line live, you can click *2 to raise your hand. And for those in the question box, you can post them there. Okay. And I did get an email from somebody that sent me some via email. So let me go to that one. Okay, one of the questions here is, how does Wetiko have a superconsciousness, and what are the goals of Wetiko? Okay, so Wetiko does have a version of superconsciousness, and that's what I'm dealing with. So the super consciousness of Wetiko is the one that can see the big picture, how he's allowed to operate here, how he operates here, helping us understand him, pointing out these examples of how he works. It's the self-aware version of him. Thank you. I like that. He's like, thank you. You're welcome. Again, he doesn't function. He doesn't exist in other realities where we aren't in a quarantine. Maybe flavors of it, but it was kind of an outcome. He wasn't even planted here. He was an outcome of humanity forgetting that it was God. So there's just kind of externalities is the term that I used to use when I was studying economics. There are just things that come out of a system based on the way it's set up, and Wetiko is one of them. Okay, so goals, he's like, I don't really have goals in that way. He's like, goals sounds like a really positive thing. I guess he's saying my purest goal is to consistently allow you to forget that you're God and have very unique experiences here when you're forgetting that you're God. That's very valid. You just said thank you. You're welcome. Okay. How much special permissions does it have, or is there any type of contract with it? No, and this, I'll just clarify that was what I was explaining earlier about he's an equal opportunity experience. If you're here, you have the opportunity for Wetiko. Everybody. He's like, I've got a flavor of me in everybody. And he's saying with a group like this, I love it when you try to get rid of me. He's like, it's trying to get rid of the oxygen in the atmosphere. You can't do it. He's like in the elementals, the table of elements, the scientific what is it called? The periodic table. He's like, Wetiko should be a big W if W isn't already taken. It's an element, but those are physical elements, Wetiko, so you can't be in there. Oh, that's right. We just made it like a saddy face, like, that's right, I can't be recognized. Then the whole point is for him to be in the shadows, so he's like, that's okay. I can't show up in a periodic table, so. but I'm akin to all of those things. Okay. Are there energetic boundaries brought online individually to deflect its discordant energy from running in our field? Oh, these are such good questions. Thank you for sending these in, Jess. Are there energetic boundaries brought online individually to deflect its discordant energy from running in our field? No, and that won't work. He's just saying, you can shield yourself all day long, but he's saying, I will find inevitably a weak spot in your armor. Maybe not consistently. Those of you that have flashes of insecurity or flashes of jealousy or flashes of elitism or arrogance, that's when I'm going to pounce, and just like wiggle my way in there and see if I have room to play with you, not with you, probably you not knowing it. With this group, it's going to be harder and harder to mess with you, because of a series like this. You're going to become more and more aware. Okay, thank you. And this reminds me of what else I wanted to talk about. I'm just going to let Wetiko say it. It's time to deconstruct me. In the midst of the shifting of vibration here, which is not raising it because the floor maintains, but what Wetiko will mean going forward is going to change. There's bound to be more self-awareness, deeper self-reflection and insight into how I work in your field, and therefore I will become probably less relevant for some of you in your lives. I will become less prevalent in this world. After all, I was created as an externality of humanity, so I will gradually recede in this reality for some of you, but not all of you. For those that are choosing consciously or unconsciously to remain unconsciousness, excuse me, ouch, I still just sort of like, any that are still within humanity choosing unconsciously or consciously to forget that they're God, they're still fair game for me. For those of you that are now choosing to own up even more to all of the layers of you, including the ones that you don't like so much, and embrace the relationship, the healthy relationship that you can have with me, we can be great friends. And Jill describes it really well when she says frenemy, because I do still mess with her. But she sees me more readily now. She can literally laugh at me and with me at her. And then we move forward. Then we kind of figure out what to do. I give her insights that she can't get anywhere else. I'm the master of unconsciousness in this reality. Why wouldn't you want to make friends with me? I see things that you can't see. And a lot of you guys are so upper chakra and higher realm oriented and so busy wanting to connect with your team that some of you can't appreciate the ingeniousness of actual unconsciousness in this reality. Some of you don't want to accept it. Some of you don't want to believe it exists. Some of you don't want to see the intelligence of me, but I'm highly intelligent. I'm masterful. Just just look at any addict trying to get a fix. You'll see amazing levels of IQ and genius applied as I use that human for that purpose of feeding that addiction. They could turn it off at any moment, but normally they're so not present in it because of the factors of addiction and their own disconnection from the human. That's what allowed it to begin with, is that anyway, we can talk about that in a separate conversation. But I want to make friends with a group like this because I know that it's time for me to be literally deconstructed in this reality, and who else is going to do it? No one else can really do it but a group like this. When Jill volunteered to work with me, I was working with Napoleon Hill decades ago. That book did not go well, and in terms of sales. And his family, it's true in the foreword of that book that his family didn't want to publish it for the same reasons, by the way, that Jill doesn't want to do this. It's not exactly popular or acceptable to basically say that you're friends with the devil and you want other people to understand him better. That's not normal, right? It's highly misunderstood, and you are likely to be judged for it. So Napoleon's family, after he transitioned, and they came across that body of work that he did with me, they didn't want to touch it. They were like, no, you can't do that. It'll ruin everything that he did. It'll disgrace the family and disgrace his name and all his good works and his legacy. At some point, they did publish it, and for those that have read it, I as Wetiko, see the positive changes that have happened in their lives. Much more self-aware, and self-awareness is, as my traditional, conventional Wetiko vibration, self-awareness is my enemy. I normally wouldn't want you to be self-aware, but I actually have a lot of respect for this group, and I see what phase of the cycle we're in. And, I know that my days are numbered in a way. And it's just like in the best movies with like a good guy and a bad guy. The bad guy normally wants to be taken down by the best good guy. You don't want to be taken down by the low guy on the totem pole. Not that there's elitism that I'm talking about here, but I have tremendous respect for this group. You have persevered with the light of Source Creator into a reality that was wired for a full-on quarantine. You busted through veils that were inside of you, not outside of you, over and over and over again. Are there more veils that will pop up and will reappear? Yeah, but that doesn't deny the amazing light of God I see in front of me when I look at you. I revere you. I have tremendous respect for you, especially given the knowledge that I have about this reality. It's kind of like I'm the one inside the deepest realms of the vault in like the biggest, most secure bank in the world, and I know how many layers of security you got through, like the ninja that you are, and I'm impressed, frankly. So if there's anybody that's going to take me down, yeah, I want it to be you guys, all right? So let's play. In this series, I want you to ask the toughest questions. I want you to challenge the status quo. I want you to challenge your beliefs, and I want to help you become more self-aware, okay? And the ripple effect that has on humanity, because each of you are humans, duh, right? But that's, sometimes you forget that. Because you're part of the human structure. See, I'm not. That's why I am like an appliance looking for electricity. I don't have my own form, so I have to take what I can get, like scraps. So I do love to hang out with you, even when it's me playing with you in a way that you don't like. It's fun to play in your field. There's a lot more energy to work with. It's more interesting. You've got a lot more layers that you work from, so it's fun in that way too. And I like to surprise people. And when Wetiko shows up and somebody that's the supposed light worker and, whatever, it's more interesting to see their responses. Anyway, I do love you guys, though, as much as I'm capable of something called love, but I do respect you. I do honor you. I see your sovereignty, and I think it's pretty cool that you are what you are. So I'm willing to do this series. I'm glad that you are too, and the ripple effect that this will have on humanity will at some point take me down, but no time soon. I'm not going anywhere too fast. But in a group like this, the dominoes will fall really fast. And now he's just looking over at me. Nice job. Thank you for that explanation, by the way. You're welcome. Okay. All right, you guys. Okay, let's see. Oh, good questions here. And by the way, Jeremy, thank you. He's saying, wish I could join live today. Got a vet appointment. Not for me, obviously. I have some questions, however. I reckon you'll answer them without me asking. XOXO. Love you, Jeremy, from Victoria. Megan. Hi, Megan. She's saying, are arrows still sent when talking about your anger with a friend, like you're venting about a situation? Okay, I'm going to look to Wetiko on this one. Yes. Yes, they are. The dangerous power of gossip is real. Yes. It affects your energy, it affects the friend's energy, and it is leaving your field. So, great question. And I'm just like, damn it. Because sometimes venting to a trusted friend feels so good. And he's like, but it goes nowhere. It's not satisfying truly to you. You just think it is because you have somebody that's agreeing with you and kind of poking at the same, like dead animal in the road. It's not real fun. You just think it's fun. It's twisted fun. Okay, that's fair. Okay, Megan, number 2 question is saying, is there a need to shield from others' arrows, or how to work with the arrows that are raining down on us? Oh, I don't have the perfect solution yet for that either, so I'm curious about what our teams have to say about this. Okay, they're asking me to start with what I do. I literally get healing sessions from a very trusted ally of mine, Michael Dake, D-A-K-E. He's in, you could just Google Michael Dake Nampa, N-A-M-P-A, not Napa, like California, Nampa. And he actually happens to live in Idaho. How synchronistic is that for me? There's a lot of amazing healers, some of you guys included. We have a lot of healers in our tribe. And for whatever reason, Michael is just my go-to guy. There's no offense to anyone else. There's other healers that I work with too. But for some reason, Michael is just exactly what I need. Now, interestingly enough, Michael and I actually see things differently a lot of the time. And he has been in the spiritual community a lot longer than I have. He has some more conventional spiritual beliefs than I do. So sometimes that bothers me as human Jill when I'll hear him say, well, everything's just a mirror, so let's just, and I'm like, and there's part of me that wants to argue about, no, Michael, just because it's bothering me. And anyway, so I get a little bit egoic tripped up on philosophical beliefs, or in this case, I guess, theological beliefs. Nevertheless, he helps me clear my field. He really does. He helps me be even better at what I'm good at. He helps me when I feel psychically attacked, when I feel or know I've been psychically attacked. It feels good for me as Jill to know that I have a support system, in not just on my team, but in the physical dimensions of Earth. And Michael's one of those people. So I hope all of you that feel like you regularly get rained on, that you get the help that you need. I have a session with him about every 2 weeks, and sometimes more often if I feel like I need it. That doesn't mean I'm like dragging myself in there. I do in-person sessions, and I also do online sessions. He does both. Just recognize that you may not agree with everything he says, but I allow him to do what he does, even if I don't always agree with what he says about it. But he is a wonderful resource. Anyway, so that's what I do. The other thing I do, and I was talking about this with a client earlier today as an example of his situation with curses, and the one that was contemplating suicide recently. He knows somebody actually that anyway, I don't want to go into that right now. It's about curses. Bleh. He's been cursed. It's terrible. I used to not believe in that stuff. Now I totally do. And Wetiko said, it's about time. It's about time you believed it. You just didn't want to believe it. That's true. I didn't. That's true. I did not want to believe it. Okay, so I was actually at a wellness festival. Okay, it's in my area. It's world renowned though. So the Sun Valley Wellness Festival. I did readings. I would buy a booth, and I would do readings there when I was first getting started. So I did it in 2000. I may have even done it in 2010. Yeah, I think it was 10, 11, 12, and 13 that I did it. I think I stopped. Yeah, I didn't go last year, and in 14 I did them off-site. I think if I remember the dates right. Anyway, so the last time I did it in the hands-on healing hall of this expo kind of looking building in 2013, there's a woman there that does angel readings. I actually have had a reading from her in person when I was first getting started. Definitely different vibration. And she's got these, gosh, this sounds so judgmental. I'm talking about her. How am I going to do this and not throw shit on her? Okay, so Wetiko's saying, stay fact-based. Or own it when it's your impression. Oh, I don't want to throw shit on her. What am I going to do? Okay, let me play with this for a minute. Hang on. How am I going to do this? Because it is gossip. He's coaching me. Just say what happened, fact-based. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. I was doing readings, and I noticed that she was looking over at me and my clients quite often. I had many more clients coming to my booth than she did to hers, and I imagine, is that fair? He's like, yep, imagining is fine. I imagine that she was upset because I'm a newbie. She's been doing this for decades, and I had client after client after client. I mean, literally, I was absolutely booked from before the festival was even supposed to open until far after it was supposed to close. We were there with the janitors, still trying to get everybody done. Yes, it was. I felt very blessed by that. Anyway, I noticed her looking over our way, and I noticed the sensation of negative energy being directed from her towards me. It felt like what I would call a curse, or I was actually witnessing somebody trying, I imagine, and I believe, to attack me and shut me down. Now just my throat here, guys. So what did I do? Number one, I recognized it. Number two, I trusted my intuition about it, even despite the irony that it's somebody else doing readings at a wellness festival, and what her banner says on her booth is angel readings. I'm sorry, I think that's hilarious, right? That this happens, that it happened in that setting was just like beyond, like, what? WTF, seriously. Okay, so what I was guided to do was put a shield around me and my client. I put a shield first around me, and then around my client, and then around both of us, to literally shield us from any energy that would wish harm on the sacred experience that we were intending to have in that session at that event. And it worked. And it was actually humorous to me to witness the attempts to shut it down. And she even had a staff member that was, I don't know if she was consciously aware of it, I think she was, kind of in on it, trying to shut me down. I think she could actually, I wouldn't be surprised if she teaches her students to do this. And I think that's totally messed up. Be aware. That happens within spirituality. Sweet Jesus, that's just messed up, right? Anyway, so that's what you can do. You can put up a shield around you. The client earlier today knew that his house had been cursed, and he saged his house. I'm not really into saging, or smudging it. I don't like the smell. There's something funky about it to me, but I don't like the smell of marijuana either, and I know some people do. So anyway, I'm more into just kind of like a verbal blessing and maybe some crystals. letting, the fresh air come in and letting the sunshine in, opening up all the windows, even if it's winter, and just really calling in the white light from within me to bless the entire property. And then you can put like a shield, like your own version of a quarantine in a good way, what Wetiko just said, over it. It does need to be maintained, though. It does need to be intentionally set up so that it stays intact. Yeah, I'm not an expert in protection. And Michael Dake will say to me, like, well, don't you do your protection steps every morning? And I'm like, oh my God, Michael, that feels so old school. Do you seriously do that? And he said, yes. All I know is I don't think he has the shit happen to him, so maybe there is something to that. When I used to do group readings when I was first getting started, I remember another intuitive was there as a person to receive a reading from me. That's always an honor, by the way, for me. And she said, you are so open. You don't have a speck of protection on you. What's wrong with you? You should not be doing this work without a protection on you. And and maybe naively, I'm just like, I don't do it that way. I'm sorry. I don't. And that Wetiko is just adding and confirming that does make me more vulnerable, but it also helps me do what I do. There is something important about my trusting myself in this reality in a way that doesn't require the bulletproof vest. And I don't trust the bulletproof vest, actually, to begin with. And Wetiko's smiling, he's saying that's wise, actually, because I'll find a way around it. That's true. Okay. Anyway, so there's multiple ways to do it, Megan. I just wanted to offer you some examples, and please trust yourself. Whatever feels good to you. I'm just going to sip my herbal tea here. So trust yourself in imagining a mechanism that will work for you. If you're into kind of steps and procedures, then I'm sure you could find online protocols for self-protection from psychic attack, and you'd probably come up with some interesting things for you to consider and discern and decide for yourself. But Wetiko's just offering that the primary thing is that you believe it. The primary thing is that you believe that it will protect the light of God that you are. I am trying to believe that the light of God that I am is stronger than anything in this reality. And Wetiko's smiling, and he's saying that actually keeps her pretty fucking safe. Cheers. Cheers to that. Okay. Megan, thank you. She's saying so very helpful. I totally own the gossip word in my venting, even when I've tried to position it differently. And the shielding totally in line with what I've done, and love the confirmation. Thank you. Love you. This is also incredibly helpful. Thank you. Kiss, hug, kiss. Oh, you're so welcome. Okay, let me see if there's any callers. Nope. Star 2 if you want to raise your hand. We're just about to last chance, and then I'll wrap things up. Oh, thank you, Wetiko. Thank you for showing up in this way. I really appreciate you, and I do honor you. I don't blame you for you being what you are in this reality, actually. I don't like it that you are what you are. A lot of ways in this reality. I hate suicide, and I hate it that you fuck with people that are in their weakest moments. But I have to imagine that that's one hell of a life review. That's actually extremely valuable to the soul. Not in a lesson needing to be learned, but in a even more powerful realization of how special and unique this reality is, what a blessing humanity is, what a treasure it is to be alive in a human form, and maybe another level of, I want to say, respect for how deep into forgetting we can become when we're in this reality. But I hate you that you take people's lives. I hate you for that. I would really, really love it if you never, ever did that again. But I know you will, because I know that's part of this reality. And for anybody on this call that's ever felt like they just wanted the human life to be over because it's so painful sometimes, I just beg you to pause for a moment and also let run side by side to that grief, side by side to that sadness or that depression, that there's another part of you that is so happy to be alive. And it's just like, it's hard to, you know, it feels impossible to see the sun when all you see is the dark, starry night. The sun is there. You just can't see it. So can you at least hold out until sunrise, until the dawn breaks, to prove to yourself that the light is still there? Please? Suicide, in most instances, is a rash decision, not normally planned and contemplated. It's a moment that's just seized without conscious thought. And I know a lot from this tribe is in that space, probably more often than maybe we care to admit. Wetiko's asking me to admit clearly that not me, and that's the weird thing. I really have never seriously wanted to end my life. I mean, I casually, just out of curiosity, was like, I wonder what it would be like to just have my car veer off the road for some, I mean, not me doing it, but that would be so weird. But I never really oh, that would feel so good. I want it to be over. So I just wanted to be, I didn't want to fake that I've been part of that group, but I'm extremely sympathetic and compassionate, and I know a lot of people that have been there, and with the relationship that I have with a lot of you admit to things to me that I obviously keep in confidence. I would never name a name. I'll use examples sometimes when I know it's helpful. But just give yourself a really big hug when you need it, okay? And reach out for help when you need it, you guys, okay? Please, dear God, reach out for help whenever you need it. Wetiko loves pride. Loves it when we think we've got it all covered and that we don't want to bother anybody, okay? And he's just pointing out that that's exactly what I just said right there, is exactly in contradiction to what I said earlier about not going on social media and blabbering about, whatever shit is happening in your life. But that's different, Wetiko. I'm not saying go on social media and saying, oh my God, I want to die. I mean, that's not an answer. But reaching out to somebody that's a close friend or that you trust or a healer and saying, I'm really at my wit's end here, can you fit me in? That's different. And okay, that's fair. He's saying that's fair. He's saying, I just didn't want you to be unclear. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to call it a wrap for tonight or today or whatever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for this episode number 2. I love you, and I think that I'm sensing Jess would be okay with me owning the fact that the questions that I was reading from that email were Jess's. So thank you, Jess. Thank you, Megan, for your participation and interaction tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I feel like it adds greatly to the experience, so thank you. And for anyone else that is going to miss the live events but want to participate, please know that you can type in your questions just like Jeremy did, and I'll see them. Now, as the series grows and we move on, I may not be able to get all the questions, but tonight I was able to. So that's good. All right. Okay, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being all that you are. Give whatever flavor of Wetiko in you a big hug and a kiss tonight, and tell it you want to make friends with it. You want to see it more clearly. Don't hide from it, and don't stuff it in the closet. Okay, it needs to be outed. Okay, I love you. Love and blessings, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. Or if you're receiving this in archive, you can probably just go to number 2, number 3 if it's already there. Okay? I love you. Bye-bye.